Welcome to our Shield of the Sun video. This is Bruce Lee and the Martial Arts, Part 14. If you haven't watched the other videos, please go back and watch them. Since Enter the Dragon, martial art movies have combined action scenes to establish Hollywood's franchise of the martial art film and star. The martial arts stars now also handle guns, rockets, machine guns, grenades, and many types of weaponry. Their films are some of the most violent films ever made, bar none, and they have helped greatly in desensitizing humankind to violence and depravity. Their main stars were Chuck Norris, David Carradine, Jackie Chan, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal, and now Jason Statham and Jet Li and others. All of these actors named are involved in satanic Baphomet cults and satanic religions, and they are blood related to Illuminati families, and they are demon possessed. I must say that out of all of them, the most subversive and even hypocritical one would be Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee's former student. They'll try telling him that, and you get a different story that was proven to be not true. A documentary was released about Bruce Lee called Curse of the Dragon. It had a lot of disinformation in the story. Chuck tried to take credit for teaching Lee to bring his kicks higher in all striking areas, but that is a lie, and Lee already did that and decided that before he ever met Chuck. Chuck also never tells anybody, nor did he talk about in the documentary, that he was trained by Bruce Lee. In fact, in this documentary, other people try to take credit for Bruce Lee's style, when in fact Bruce Lee came up with it on his own by studying all forms of fighting and a comprehensive overview of fighters in all forms. And he did this before he was world famous and before he opened up his first schools. So why are these people like Chuck lying? It is called pride, and they're trying to get credit and fame from someone they were secretly jealous of, and they wanted to be him to the point they hated him, and after his death and before it, they used him for his knowledge and influence. What Chuck does not tell you is that he owes Bruce Lee for making him the master of martial arts that he became. Norris wants to be seen as a master that was equal in every way to Bruce Lee and unique, but Norris was not, then or now, ever an equal to Bruce Lee's skills. He came close, but not close enough. And Norris even had a real fight against Bruce Lee few people know about outside of Return of the Dragon, by the way, into which this fight took place after Norris broke away from Lee's school, and he got so full of himself that he thought he could now beat Bruce Lee. In this fight that secretly took place in one of Lee's schools, Norris was soundly and clearly defeated, and since then he had a personal problem with Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee taught Norris his deadly fighting style, and it was Lee who taught Norris how to kick, and not the other way around. And Lee even taught Norris how to invoke evil spirits to enhance his fighting arts, by showing Norris the ancient religious side of martial arts and the Lee Illuminati family. Norris became one of Lee's most impressive and top students, and Lee made Norris a skilled master in his own right, but it was not enough for Norris. He wanted what Bruce Lee had, even if he had to lie to get it, like he did in the documentary. Chuck won one world tournament after another, becoming one of the most feared fighters in history, and he was driven to do this because of that covet desire to be as good, if not better, than Bruce. But after all the tournament wins, Bruce still defeated him. Norris never openly challenged him again, but kept quiet and respectful toward Lee, but he still had an under-the-surface grudge against him. And after Lee's death, Hollywood used Norris to become the man to solidify the Hollywood martial art franchise. On the outside, Norris would say he is a Christian and good American, but by his private practices he worships evil spirits and studies Satan's doctrine, like the third eye doctrine, which is related to demon possession, and he studies his martial art. His close friends are Hollywood satanic celebrities who are also into physical fitness, martial arts, and they worship Satan privately while putting on a facade. Norris likely is a guru and a New Ager who is a member of the Hollywood Baphomet that Norris joined in the 70s. He tells the media that he is a Christian when in fact he is not. He does believe in American tradition, but let's face the facts. That tradition blinds people from the pure truth of Jesus Christ. There is a lot of racism, prejudice, bigotry, violence, gossip, slander, hate, pride, arrogance, ignorance, sexual immorality, alcohol and drug abuse, openly or in the closet, like most things they do, and formal worship and not true worship of Jesus Christ. They say they do the things of Christ, but their actions prove otherwise. There is a great hypocrisy in American traditional people that needs to be confronted because it is allowed to destroy their nation and will destroy their nation if left unchecked. Chuck is a problem, not a solution, just like the tradition is a problem and not a solution. After Chuck joined the Baphomet, he went on to star in many action films that combined martial arts with gun violence, making it even worse. Most of his films were about a guy who had enough of the so-called bad guys who are defined by the stereotype of the day, then and now, where these undesirables are shown to be some sort of awful criminals, are usually shot down in a hail of gunfire, blown up by explosives and rockets, killed in martial art fights, or killed in a variety of ways. What you don't see or realize in an action film is that the good guys are just as bad as the so-called bad guys are, regardless of how they want to make the heroes look. The stories of these films serve to show a hypocritical and worldly side of life, and not true reality. God, it is true, called for violent actions against certain nations mentioned in the Bible. That was because those nations were being punished for their evil, violent actions. God used the measure of their desire, which was violence and cruelty against them, to show them the pain of what they did to other people. So therefore, what action stars generally represent is what God hates and punishes back to them. So therefore, what Chuck Norris and unfortunately many others who hold to worldly Americanism represent also what God hates and will punish if not stopped and repented for. Martial art films, like Chuck Norris's films, mostly all action films and martial art films of Hollywood, do not show the way of God, and it does not at all leave us with the feeling of holiness, honor, love, and peace and compassion for all humankind. These films serve to promote total desensitization toward violence and cruel actions against people. These films are meant to kill our love, compassion, common sense, our honor, our respect for one another, and to fill us with pride, anger, violence, and a feeling to dominate over other people. These films like to promote causes. In fact, Chuck likes to promote causes for POWs in Vietnam who have been abandoned and lost, and also he speaks against gang violence and speaks for kids bettering themselves. But why make films where you're talking about POW suffering and then glorify violence and martial arts as a way to save them? That does not make any sense. That is stupid, and it won't help them at all. Why make films where your character takes matters into their own hands and then turn around and speak against gangs for doing what you're doing in your films? How can a person tell a kid that martial arts will better them when in fact people who practice it do not become better, but more violent and prideful, and also it leads them to satanic worship and personal injury? Martial arts does not help humankind. That is why it was not supposed to be taught to humankind.